Okay.
There we go. We're live.
All right. Here we go. Okay. So welcome to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust meeting of Thursday, April 8th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Westborough's website at town.westborough.ma.us. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner. Westborough TV's online platforms, youtube.com/Westborough TV and westboroughTV.org, or on Charter Channel 192 or Verizon Channel 28. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the meeting in real time, the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westborough's website on audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Okay, so welcome everybody. Today's agenda, just very quickly, we're going to have approval of minutes. There's two meetings that we've had since our last meeting, or two sets of minutes we need to approve. Do quick status on the website, which is now up and running. We'll have a SIRA update. Alan and Kate will do that. Hank will talk about some of the investigation he's been doing on affordable housing opportunities, along with Leah on a couple locations in Westborough. Well, if possible, we might get a CPA update. That's not critical. I'll give a little bit of a quick overview of the 495 Metrowest Partnership update, a meeting I attended 2 weeks ago. And then we'll have general, any membership discussion and other business and discussion, and then hopefully adjournment. So, given that, I'm coming back to there we are. So, starting off, we have two sets of minutes. Now they've been posted on the Office 365 server. So Alan, you posted those a couple days ago, 2 days ago. And is there anybody who does not feel that they've had time to review the minutes before we go in? Okay. So we have minutes from the hold on one.
March 11th. Oh. Did Ed hang up instead of mute? It happens.
I mean, they're right next to each other, so.
Ed, you're on mute.
You're muted, Ed.
The microphone, not the little handset.
Yeah, I got it. I opened Office 365 and I lost the meeting, so I don't know if there's a compatibility issue there or what, but maybe I just need to open in different.
We're in public session, so I won't blame user error.
Okay, good. Thank you. No, it's Microsoft's fault. So the meeting minutes are from. Let's hold on a second. We had our meeting of I only have one screen.
March
here, so
11th.
March 11th was our last regular meeting. Does anybody have any changes, discussions, comments on that meeting? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of those minutes for March 11th, 2021.
So moved.
I'll second.
Oh, excellent.
All right, Alan, can you call the roll?
Sure thing. A roll call vote. Roush.
Roush, yes.
Bain.
Bain, yes.
McLean.
McLean, yes.
McLean. Sorry about that. Storm.
Am I allowed to vote? I wasn't there.
You should abstain. You can.
Actually, you can vote or you can abstain. It's up to you.
I'll just abstain.
Okay, and Edinburgh, yes. So the minutes are approved on a vote of 4-0-1, 5 being present.
Okay, thank you. All right, the second set of minutes was our short meeting from the 25th of March. Has anybody not have a chance to review those? Otherwise, I entertain a motion for acceptance of those minutes, approval of those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So roll call vote. Roush.
Roush, yes.
Bain.
Bain, yes.
McLean.
McLean, yes.
Storm.
Storm, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. Passes on a vote of 5-0-0, 5 being present.
Okay. Okay, good. Next on the agenda is the website and file storage. The website is live, and Alan, thank you for some of your work. You've been jumping in here, I know. It took a little bit of back and forth with Civic CMS to get everything up and rolling. Little frustrating, but in the end, and there's still work to do, but we have a live Westborough Affordable Housing Trust site. You can go to the main Westborough page and go to the boards and commissions, and you go to Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, and up will come the website. And Alan, thank you for uploading the agenda and getting some of the other documents up, and that'll be a work in progress. Okay. One of the things I guess I do want to ask is
our URL forwarding there yet? WestboroughHousingTrust.org.
I haven't tried that. I've been going through the.
Okay. I'm not sure that's working yet, so we might need to coordinate with Mark Stockman.
Okay, I'll make a note of that to check on the Westborough.
No, yeah, I just got an error.
Housing Trust. Okay, I'll get that .org URL direct. All right, I made a note to myself. I'll email Mark on that.
It might not actually be live yet. We're not showing up in the list of boards and committees on the town website this morning.
Saw us.
Well, let me refresh my cookies here.
Refresh, and that's how I got in. I think I got in that way. Let me try a different browser. We don't want to spend too much time here.
You might have seen it because you're logged in and you're an administrator. You'd have permissions. Yeah, it's not posted yet, so we'll follow up with that.
Okay, I just went. I'm just in different browser, boards and commissions. Okay. No, you're right. I don't see it yet. Yeah, so it's probably because I was an admin. All right. So, but anyhow, we'll get everything. It's good enough to go. We should get it up and running. We should get it public, and then we can, fill in things as we need to and keep it updated as we need to. So that's that. I guess one question, and we may not want to go into deep discussion right now, is our, if you will, I'll call it archive of documents. We have obviously Office 365. We have, OneDrive associated with that account or those accounts, as well as now we have the housing trust. So we should have some practices or policies as far as, what should go where, as far as retaining records and documents and things like that. So,
if I may, on the public
Sure.
on the public website, which is integrated with the town website, should be anything that that's required or we want to be public facing. Right?
Okay.
So any reports, any documents that relate to projects. It's been a crazy week, but I will catch up and get all of our agendas and minutes and supporting documents packaged up and uploaded into those sections of the site over the next couple of days.
Great.
Even things, like the document at our last regular meeting that Hank presented with information about 45 High Street Extension, it's referred to in the minutes. I'll attach it to the minutes and upload it.
Okay.
So that if someone reads the minutes, they'd also see what we were talking about, as well as presentation slides and things of that nature.
Okay.
The Office 365 environment is really for all the, all this paperwork that happens behind the scenes, right?
Mhm,
So the warrants to pay invoices,
Yep.
The signed version of the contract, things of that nature.
Right.
I don't know if everyone's had a chance to log in yet or access the SharePoint site. I did create a SharePoint site that has a couple of document libraries. One is basic, has a hierarchy for our meetings. So it would have minutes and agendas in it, supporting documents. Another is for the financial paperwork that Ed is managing so well, with the few invoices and payments and, things of that nature. So if people could go in and look and see if the organization makes sense, that would be helpful.
Making a note of that.
We also have an email. We also do have an email address, which is trustees@westboroughhousingtrust.org, which will go to all 5 of us, and that's a public-facing email address.
Right. And basically, we've also set up, just while you're mentioning emails, on the main website that we will be making live as soon as we can. There are what I'll call indirect emails. In other words, you can click on one of our names, a little sort of submission box comes up, and people put in their name, their email, their question or comment or what have you, and then that gets forwarded to your regular home email that we've been using for announcement of meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So what it does is it provides a little bit of a firewall or a little bit of a buffer between, so nobody's has to give out their home, their private, if you will, email address. And it's also, I think, records, archives those emails for purposes of for open meeting law, et cetera, et cetera. Right. But it does go to your at westboroughhousing.trust or trust.org account. So you got to be checking that account.
Right. And if you'd like that your housingtrust.org email address to forward to your personal email, let me know. I can help you do that.
Yep.
So that you don't have yet another.
Yeah.
My iPhone groans with the number of email addresses and inboxes I check.
I know.
So I have one comment on the site.
Yep.
Which is, Ed, I don't know. I was going to go back and double check, but the news box in the upper right corner.
Yep.
I thought that was going to be Affordable Housing Trust news, not townwide news.
Yes, that's what it should be. I guess we can. I can.
If you could
talk.
let Miriam know.
Miriam know.
That's the only thing I saw.
Okay, let me make a note here, Miriam. I have the news box upper right
Right.
should be.
And then the rest are just content updates that I'll finish making
Should be how
today and tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday.
Yep. News. Okay, got it. All right. So moving on. So I guess what it sounds like is we will use Office 365 SharePoint with the appropriate tree to maintain all documents, both external and internal, and then move appropriate documents from 365 onto the website as appropriate. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. So everything should be able to be found under the SharePoint app on the Office 365, and then the things will be copied, not moved, but copied from there up to the website as appropriate. So that way we have one, if you will, total archive location of everything we do. With that, great. All right, moving on.
And I just went in and flipped the switch, so we are live.
Oh, you're able to do that.
People, yeah.
Perfect. All right, we're live. I can see the server slowing down with all the people jumping on.
Okay, we still need to coordinate with Mark to do the URL forwarding, but
right. I have that as a to do. With that, the next thing on the agenda, moving along, is a Sarah update with Alan and Kate. So, if you want to take it.
Okay. Go for
So,
it, Alan.
So Kate starred on the Frank and Mary show recording yesterday, which will be going out, which will be up on the Westborough TV broadcast and streaming channels, hopefully today, but if not, definitely tomorrow. It was a lot of fun with Shelby. We got a lot of information out.
Good.
Additionally, our effort has been getting the program up and running. And so right now, we have, with thanks to the Westborough Public Schools, whose translation team over the weekend reviewed all of our materials, we have a one-page flyer and a one-page more detailed info sheet available in English, Arabic, Spanish, Chinese, and Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone needs an additional language, we can send it over, and the schools will get it into that language as well. And so we started with Google Translate, and then they went through and edited just for clarity and idiosyncrasies and idiomatic meaning and things, given context. So I've printed out. My business is so paperless at this point that we hardly ever use our printer, so I had to power it on. And but the nice thing is I've got tons of color toner sitting around unused. That's going to go bad. So we printed color flyers in all 5 languages that are available and posted at Town Hall and in the library. Westborough Youth and Family Services, I'm dropping it off to them this morning after our meeting. They also have the one-page info sheets in those 5 languages to hand out that people can take with them. We did at his request, we did it in black and white. We did just the info sheets. Well, Phil has the posters that he's putting up at the food pantry, but we double-sided the info sheets. Yeah, so he has a single packet that he'll hand to all of their clients as they come through this week.
All right, so that'll go to everyone that comes through. They don't have to go up and read it and take copies and stuff.
So the school is deciding whether they're going to do an electronic communication or whether they're actually going to put the language appropriate info sheets and flyers in students' backpacks, grades K through 8.
Right, and by that, when we talk about
high school,
the virtual backpacks or physical.
I think they're looking at both virtual and physical.
Okay.
So to help get the word out, and they do have a target population through their counseling services
Sure.
and through other programs that they will also reach out one-on-one
Okay.
to make sure they're aware of the program.
Good.
So with that all happening in place this morning, we continued outreach. So our state reps and state senator are aware that the program's up and running and accepting applications. And we are, I've reached out to Pastor Jeff Goodrich, who is the current chair of the Interfaith Clergy Association, sharing the information. He'll pass it on to all of the houses of worship with a request that they help us connect to families who might qualify.
Jeff's with Good Shepherd Lutheran.
Yep.
So,
and this will be featured in this evening's Westborough Connects newsletter email that goes out as well. And then I've also, I think last on my to-do list is I've been given an introduction to the director of the YMCA, up over by Herb Chambers.
Yep.
And as they have programs who has, with Westborough residents, where they might be able to identify some families as well.
Yeah, I know Betsy Moak went up there, but she's more in development. Do you have a contact there?
Yes.
Okay, so we're fine.
I have a contact there. So I've been typing all morning. As I CC Kate on these things, she's aware.
Machine, just so you all know, just machine. You're a machine, Alan. Like you're just pumping it out.
Hopefully I'm human.
Well, you're very much a human, but like I'm really impressed with your productivity with this. This is impressive.
Copy and paste is my savior. And so, and then of course, we sent an email out to the members of Westborough Cares and the COVID-19 Task Force and the community fund that we had met with previously to let them know that it was open and they should start referring families. And so our understanding is that they will be reaching out to any family that's previously contacted the community fund for assistance and sharing the information with them as well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that covers a lot of the, some of the churches as well as outreach programs and youth family services, et cetera. You guys are doing an amazing job. As chair, on behalf of the rest of the trustees, thank you, and on behalf of the community, thank you. So, keep going.
And then the last piece of the puzzle, I also just, as long as we're on the air and being broadcast, and folks are going to hopefully see this, is Metrowest Community Development does have translation services available, and also can work with TTY for people who are hard of hearing and need to use that service. And they can make other accommodations as well for people who might need any sort of accommodation.
Sure.
Ideally, they're going to help people upload copies of their documents online. But if people do need to, are unable to do that for some reason, and they do need to provide hard copies, on the desk at Westborough, at the town manager's office or Westborough Town Hall, there is an envelope. There are envelopes that are labeled with instructions that they can, put in their documents, seal them, and leave them at, with the the administrative assistants who will hold them, let us know, and then Kate or I will overnight them, or if need be, drive them into Newton, so that those documentations get there in a timely manner. So we've got the electronic, we've got the manual, we've got the language issue, we've got outreach happening. So now it's hopefully people who need the assistance apply.
That's super. I think the outreach and via Westborough TV with what Kate and Shelby did, and just all the paper-based stuff. The word, hopefully word will get around, and people might receive things a couple of times, because sometimes it takes a few iterations, but it sounds like the collaborative is all set to go. I know I'm just chiming in. We did go through all the legal back and forths, and also address some of the concerns that the finance department had, as far as payments and deposits, et cetera, et cetera. So we're all set on that. We're basically up and running for all purposes
Yep.
with Sarah.
And,
So outstanding.
And I got notice this morning that we're on the electronic signboard at Route 30 and Lyman Street. We're in the rotation.
Yep.
It's like, you've hit the big time when you're in the rotation there.
I know. Well, there's the two boards. There's one down by the Target, on just the Northborough line too.
Yeah, we're not on those on the big.
Not on the billboards, no.
We're not on the billboards yet,
oh.
because that's more of an involved production and scheduling issue to get into the PSA rotations there. But the electronic sign at Route 30 and Lyman Street,
Got it.
we're in the rotation. And so Sheila Dorr in the town manager's office and the other folks who cover the COVID-19 hotline are also fully briefed on, if someone were to call, how to connect them with Merkeisha and the application process.
Right, with Metrowest.
Yes.
Collaborative. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I've been on the big board on Route 9. I actually this is Oregon.
Have we been able to provide the seed money to Metro West Community Developments that they have cash to deal with? And
no, we've basically the way things are going to work is once they realize we're going to try to do it in batches as opposed to giving them like 75K out of the box. They're going to, as they start the approval process and recognize the need for 1 or 2 months worth of, let's say, for 10 people, we will then allocate. We will then cut a check, put it on the warrant, cut a check, and send it to them so that they can distribute it to, hopefully directly to the landlords and or to the individuals. But they'll take care of that. So what the finance committee was, or the finance department was a little concerned about was we didn't want to just dump a bunch of money to the collaborative and have them just draw on it without some, if you will, initial request of some detail, report. And that way we can, just for good finance practices, ensure that there's a good trail, and not that we don't trust them. They do it for a lot of communities, but that we do have a little bit more buttoned down. And then what they'll do, that's for the distribution for the actual rent, for their fees and services, which are the 400 once they actually put somebody into the program, and 25 if for 50. Or 50, I'm sorry, 50 for to handle an application. They will bill us, I think, twice a month as they process those. So, and that'll go through the normal approval process, and I have all that worked out with Leah and folks.
And Leah did comment that, she prefers this, for audit trail, auditability, in governance, but also that, if for some reason we need additional funding on short order, that, her preference is they would rather be in a situation where they will drop everything and get a check out the door than to have moved too much money over and have to get it back at the end of the program. So Leah's comfortable with this, which is always a good thing, and we appreciate the support of her and her department in making this happen. One final comment for me on this is, Leah, thank you very much for forwarding the updated HUD numbers on area median income. We did incorporate those into all of our materials.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Leah. We did. I did see that. That was well done.
That's great.
Thank you. And hopefully everybody got that, and you're able to select out, get out down to Worcester County and see the, the specifics, limits. Okay. Anything else on the Sarah updates? Any concerns or problems that need additional help? Or do you feel comfortable, Alan and Kate? You're good?
So far, so good.
Okay, great. All right, perfect. Why don't we move on? We're doing well on time here. It's 6:33 here in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 9:33. Why don't we move on? Hank, can you and Leah bring us up to date? I think there's three
Sure.
processes or three projects that you're looking at.
Let me start with the Westborough Housing Authority. Here at the Housing Trust, we had conversations that we need to establish a relationship with the Housing Authority and try and see if there's value in jointly creating a proposal to do something with them, some sort of a development project, either at Rogers Road or at some other property that they would be aware of or we would be aware of that makes sense, that would be a joint housing authority, housing trust activity. So Leah and I had a Zoom meeting with Linda Strand, who is the executive director of the Housing Authority, and with two board members, April Metzger and Joan Pavolis, both of the Housing Authority board. And again, it was a very preliminary discussion. I spent a little bit of time educating Leah and myself about what the Housing Authority is and does, and we spent a little bit of time educating them about the Housing Trust, and then we kind of tried to get to where we had some understanding of what would the Housing Authority like to see in affordable housing if a project was to be developed around Rogers Road.
Mm-hmm.
And their preference would be to do something that would target the over 60 demographic, and would be similar to the 36 or so units that they have today that are age restricted 1-bedroom units, and we would do something at Rogers Road. We left the Housing Authority with the action item to go back to their board and talk some more about a little more specifically what they would want and why it makes sense. So we'll continue that conversation. We also started to identify what would be some of the constraints or things we would need to deal with. We spent a bit of time. We confirmed that the land that the Housing Authority buildings are on and the land that the senior center is on is actually was at one time a contiguous parcel. Today it seems to have been subdivided, but both parcels are under the control of the Board of Selectmen. So it's both M1 zoning property. I have not talked with the planning department yet, but basically what that means is anything you do there's going to have to be special permit. You'd have to go to the planning board, special permit, and we'll get to that. We also explored in an independent conversation with the town engineer. We had been advised by Jim Robbins, town planner, that there's a moratorium on multifamily sewerage hookups in the town of Westborough.
Correct.
Because our current permitted hookups goes up against our allocated capacity from the sewage treatment plant. There's an article on the town meeting warrant to get some money to hire a consultant to go review our options to expand that. So again, if we anything that would be done with the Housing Authority would clearly be multifamily. The town has to clear up this moratorium on hookups. Town engineer believes it'll take 18 months to 24 months to get to where they'll be able to get relief on the multifamily sewer hookups.
Okay.
So that may seem like a tight constraint, but pretty much anything you do of this nature is going to take you that long to put the deal together anyhow.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
we-
I think one of the yeah, as far as a timeline, as long as we, because the only other alternative, which is what they had to do up on off of Mount Vernon, I think
Pleasant Street.
Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant, was they had to do a neighborhood, if you will, septic system
Yep.
of some sort, and that's not cheap. And I don't know, given how close things are to wetlands right at the Rogers property there, because they're right abutting the swamp. They may have some concerns about doing something like that, plus the cost of doing it. So there's a way we can get it through, especially if it's I'll use the word somewhat lower density hookup if they're single bedroom apartments. I don't know if they may be able to squeeze us in.
So one question, Hank. Did the town engineer verified that the sewer hookup authorization for the existing development on Rogers Road doesn't have any additional capacity? So for example, there are areas of town where they're undeveloped parcels, and at the time the sewer hookup was authorized, even though it's never been used, it was X units, X bedrooms. I'm just wondering if
Alan, I didn't get into that level of detail with her as to whether there's unused allocation there. There are a number of properties that have been through not the sewer permitting piece, that have an allocation of capacity to them. Pretty much single family properties. I'm under the impression from talking whether it can clarify that they're just not allowing any new construction of specifically multifamily. They're allowing single family construction, and they're allowing it in places where the properties had previously been subdivided and included in the current allocation. So you almost have to go lot by lot to find out if you're included in the current allocation.
It's complex because the residential allocation is divided based on single family, multi, and even type of multifamily, right?
Yeah, so, single, multi, and
mixed use,
and commercial, and so there's quite an extensive process that they're going to go through with consultants. They're already working on preparing for it, but it's going to take 18, 24 months to get to where we understand what the options are, and then go work with the Department of Environmental Protection and get the master permit modified. So it's going to be a while, but again, it's within the kind of time frame that it would take for us to develop, fully develop a proposal and be ready to go out and go through a permitting cycle. We also talked with.
Kate, sorry, I just have a question.
Yep.
I'm very naive to all of this, so I just.
That's right. No problem.
So I'm wondering then if there is this moratorium on sewer hookups for multifamily units, for new multifamily units. That's what I'm hearing you say, right?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So I'm wondering if, we started off having the conversation 2 months ago about thinking about existing buildings and repurposing them, like the Reliant medical building, which I know was going to be super cost prohibitive because it'd be a massive thing. But is it worth thinking about other buildings that might already have sewer hookups to make it a quicker process? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we could. I mean, if the building is permitted for a flow that will accommodate the intended use, you got a chance of getting a permit, but you'll have to go through an engineering review and a permitting review to do that. So, again,
I think part of the problem can be with commercial is that generally, depending upon the nature of the commercial establishment, if they have a cafeteria, that sort of changes the whole thing. But if it's really an office building that just has, bathrooms, basically is their primary use, they have a much lower flow than you will have in residential areas where people are showering, running dishwashers, washing clothes, etc. So everything has to be done sort of individually, depending upon the what the facility is.
Right. And so the Reliant building, their permit would include the fact that you've got sinks in every exam room, that you
Right.
you do have equipment to wash and sterilize equipment, now whether that would be enough to convert, and that building, given zoning, would need to be mixed use, would mean there would have to be some retail component on the first floor and residences above. So whether it would convert or not, it would be a very detailed discussion with the DPW.
But it's a good example
right?
For discussion.
I was just thinking in terms of like speed, and I understand what Hank you're saying about like to go through this development process is a lengthy one anyway. So by the time we get through, I don't know the order in which those things happen. So like, do we have to wait until this moratorium is over to even, or can we do things concurrently? So that
you can do all these things concurrently. The fact that there's restrictions that you haven't cleared will make it a little more difficult to negotiate financing and get through the permitting processes. But this is a permitting process I hadn't been aware was restricted. There's all kinds of permitting processes on any piece of property you take a look at. You gotta go understand what you're gonna have to do to get permits and then start down that process. I'm not aware of any place where, unless you have a piece of land that has by right zoning and is going to have a single family house on it, it's pretty hard to do anything without going through extensive permitting processes.
Right.
The other part of the conversation with the housing authority was they educated Leah and I a bit on what the guidelines within which they operate, which vary depending upon the funding sources that they use to support the construction activity. However, what kind of the high level piece is, if we get state funding for the project through the housing, if the housing authority gets state funding through DHCD, then the housing authority has restrictions on how they allocate the units that are built, and the restrictions are such that it's very difficult to provide local preference under that. Today, for housing authority units, there's kind of like an area-wide availability list or list of clients that are next in line to get a unit, and the preferences on that list are for homeless folk, for veterans, and then a third level preference for the general citizenry, and it's that third level preference you can have some local preference applied. So again, a lot of what would be done with the housing authority and what kind of clients you could serve would depend upon how you put together the funding for the deal, which grants and programs it's under. So we've agreed with the housing authority to meet again in a couple of weeks, about a month at a time, and slowly but surely try and put together a vision of what they would like to see and a vision of what we would like to see, and then from that get down to some kind of feasibility. So it's a working process.
Yeah, it's good. You've started it. That's the important thing. And I think the housing authority, they have good knowledge of their clientele, and they, and they've been doing this, not building as much as managing. They're really a management agent, for the various properties which they serve. So one of the benefits is that you get them as an ally. You obviously hopefully the select board, since this is an M1 zoned area, that and the fact that the select board is very supportive of the housing trust, you know, we're in a good place. We're not in an antagonistic or adversarial position. We're trying to get a win-win for everybody, if that's fair.
And from a funding and allocation, the recent housing choice changes to the housing choice program supposedly provide a little more flexibility for a local option, at least on the initial renter or the initial purchaser, if not on an ongoing basis. And so that would definitely need some more investigation. And also know that, you know, it been contacted by members of our delegation, most notably Jamie Eldridge, who's extremely supportive of affordable housing, who reminded me that as he's done with affordable housing projects in other communities, that, you know, once the trust has an identified project, that he's willing to go to bat for direct funding to the trust to help subsidize those projects as well. And so his comment was, as soon as you have something tangible, talk to me about, you know, help with the funding.
Right.
So
I agree,
which is great.
And I think the path Leah and I are on is to come up with at least a conceptual proposal. Here's what we would like to see happen. Get agreement of both boards that, yeah, that'd be great to make that happen. Then we can go attack the issue of what do you have to do to make that vision a reality.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get to the point where you got a pretty tangible idea of what you'd like to accomplish, and what audience you're going to serve, why you want to serve it, what it's going to take in terms of land and buildings, and, you know, kind of high level estimates of costs. So we're started down the path.
Yep, that's good. All right, you want to move on, Hank, to other things? You got about 15 minutes.
When we discussed the High Street Extension property, became aware that the Recreation Department had some interest in that property also. So I talked with Jennifer Kirkland, the rec director, and she told me that the rec department had been contacted by some of the abutters in the adjacent condo development. And those abutters were interested in possibly developing the property as what I would call a pocket park, a small park, similar to the park that was built on Union Street as part of the Wyman Gordon development over there.
Bay State Commons.
I'm sorry, Bay State Commons, right? Couldn't remember the name. That's terrible. The rec department has done a little bit of investigation. They had a site prep firm take a look at the site. Site prep firm told them it would cost at least $50,000 to fill the voids in the land and even out the terrain and do site prep, the land clearing, parking access. Jennifer said she thought that the cost of putting a park there would be somewhere in the ballpark of $200,000 to $300,000. They haven't really proceeded beyond that because they've been busy with other things. But when they have, possibly this summer or fall, when they have some resources, they're going to go ahead further to see whether what could be put there, what it would cost, and understand whether the neighborhood has the ability to raise funds and whether the community would support some funding. So there's going to be, if we were to go ahead, there would be multiple proposals for that property.
When you talk about the condos, are you talking about the Mayberry Drive?
The Mayberry Drive area, yeah, right. The back end of that property abuts down onto the Mayberry Drive property. It basically spans between Mayberry Drive and High Street Extension.
Correct.
So I don't know if it has frontage, but it spans on both.
Yes.
So again, at that point, I haven't gone any further with that. We understand we have something there. There's also a property over at number 1 Upton Road that is similar. The town owns it, has no planned use for it. If we get to the point where we say, yeah, we think we want to do a single family project, or at least go forward with one, we got at least 2 places to look. And again, just to use up all your time, I also had gotten a list of what I call tax title properties in town with tax delinquencies that are sufficient that the town tax collector keeps a list of them and from time to time takes action. I've looked at some of those properties. Many of the properties that are on that list are pieces of land that were what I would call leftovers from various developments, where a developer developed a piece of property and there's a little landlocked piece or not usable piece somewhere that the developer couldn't get rid of, and they've just abandoned it, and they'll probably never pay the taxes, and somebody will eventually do something. But there are pieces, some of the properties just people forgot to pay their taxes or had financial problems. But there was one property that I've taken a look at. I did a drive-by to see what it looked like. It's on Baylor Avenue, which is just off Lyman Street near Chauncey Pond.
Yeah. By the way, just as a
Yep.
Interjection here, we as a group, and also because this is public, we want to be conscientious not to mention maybe specific addresses or people's names or things like that, since these could be situations where people are really have undergone difficult hardships, and we don't want to be adding to that. But we also at the same time want to make sure that if something is not being used and could be if you will, repurposed or upgraded or what have you, that we can step in.
If we get to the point we're talking about specific properties and the potential value,
Yes.
potential lease purchase value of that real estate, then we would be able to do that in executive session.
Right. So, but for now, this is a good general discussion, as long as we don't get into specifics. I just wanted to make that sort of caveat. Go ahead, Hank.
That particular property that the town tax collector advised me is currently in the process of going through land court because the delinquencies are sufficient that they started a land court proceeding for the town to take the property. He predicted that the land court settlement probably would occur sometime late this summer. If the land court settles in the favor of the town of Westborough, then the property would come under the control of the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen would decide what to do with the property in terms of next step. Again, I just did a drive-by to see what it looked like, and it's clear that the property has been abandoned. I mean, the lawn hasn't been mowed in years. It just looks like the building's been abandoned for some time. I don't have any data, but I believe that the owner probably passed away, and there was not a clear succession of title. So there's a piece of property. It's a one. By the way, just in terms of the configuration, it's a 2-bedroom ranch property on a 0.2 or 0.25 acres in a small single family development. Opportunity there potentially to renovate the property and return it as an affordable home.
Okay.
So that's kind of, there's some opportunities out there that we need to kind of decide how we want to move forward. I wouldn't decide today, but yep.
I wonder if it might be good. I mean, it's great that we're pursuing these ideas and getting a sense of what's out there and how we might want to proceed. And I don't want to slow down or stop that effort. In parallel, it might be good, and I'd spoken to Ed about this, about maybe inviting the folks from MHP to come in and do a little workshop, help us, set up a process. What's our, we have priorities, that we set when we created the trust through the working group. We have guidelines that we want to follow. So within those priorities, come up with a process for how we'll identify or receive suggestions, how we'll evaluate them, and how we'll decide to move forward, and sort of, some of the meta structure of how we're going to operate and our own operating guidelines. It might be good, in later this spring or over the summer to do that kind of a workshop.
Alan, I had a conversation with Ed, say, a thing I've done in the past with these kind of startup organizations is you try to write the report that you'd like to deliver to your sponsoring group 3 years from now as to what you've accomplished at the end of 3 years. Take that task on as that. You wouldn't necessarily, that's not the format I would use, but it's a task that allows you to focus on a 3-year plan. I want to accomplish a certain number of things 3 years, and I picked 3 years because that's a reasonable time to deal with. And my sense is MHP could help us go down that sort of, and you'd have some idea. Hey, I want to attack. Here's the client bases. Here's the client bases, multiple bases I want to serve. Here's the numbers of units I'd like to deliver. Here's the kind of funding I'm going to have available to spend. You got to put together all that's, and then that really gives you a path to follow.
That may be one of our outcomes, if you will, after an MHP. We could make that as, this is what we would like to be able to create as a result of our discussion, workshop, etc. And I assume if we're going to do a workshop like that, we would have to find a time. Obviously, that's convenient for everybody as well as MHP, and it would be outside of our normal meetings time. It wouldn't be part of a meeting, just because I don't think it's sufficient time. But I'm open, Alan. I don't know if you had other ideas on that, or anybody else has other ideas on that. But I think it's and it may be if we wait until the summer, we may be at the point where we can feel that we can do a non-virtual meeting, and may be able to carve out time, in an evening, on a weekend, or something like that, and get together and go through a true workshop, whiteboarding and things like that. So why don't we put that on hold a little bit? I think we have some initiatives going, which are good. With Sarah up and running, with Hank's initiatives, with particularly the housing trust, not the housing trust, the authority, Westborough Housing Authority. We have some, irons in the fire, that we can work on over the next few months, to show progress on behalf of the trust. Anything else, Hank, you want to say in closing?
That's my report.
Okay, great. You're 5 minutes ahead of schedule. Any updates, Leah, that you might want to give? You don't have to, on the CPA. Any new?
So we're going to have another meeting on the 15th. Right now, we are going to talk to some town committees about what we're considering and what their input is, offer some recommendations, seek input. We're continuing to look at that 0.5% number for a CPA surcharge. What else? And we are looking into what projects the CPA, or what projects the town could have used CPA funds for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's primarily what we're looking into right now. And then on the 15th, we'll reconvene and have more to say once again.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you for keeping us up to date on that. The next point, I just want to bring you a little bit up to date. There's it's a nonprofit group called the 495 Metrowest Partnership, which is a partnership of, I don't know how many towns. It's quite a few that go, ring around sort of the 495 Beltway around Boston. and in particularly in the Metro West area. Actually, the partnership, the offices, they have a couple of staff, is located on Freiburg Highway in Westborough. So they're Westborough based. They have a couple working groups. They've spun up a new one for housing. So I attended that. Actually, Shelby Marshall had been to a generalized meeting, I don't know, I guess 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, and alerted us that there was a housing update. I attended that 2 weeks ago today. There were probably people signing in. It was a lot of town planner type of people, as well as the some staff and invitees that were presenting. In particular, the main topic of the presentation, this one was a bill that was signed, some legislation that was signed last year called the Housing Choice Initiative, which the Baker administration obviously recognizes, as I think everybody recognizes, the lack of housing in general, not just affordable. They were talking about housing in general. Affordable would be part of that. You know, within Massachusetts, I mean, we see that in the price of housing and you know, just going up and up because of the lack of inventory and new development. So part of that initiative was to, I'll use the word facilitate the development of housing through more lenient zoning, I'll say, as well as other programs. Now, there are things that are called choice communities, and they're very focused on also commuter communities, which Westborough is a commuter community because we have the MBTA serving the town. And you know, you can file to become a choice community, and you get various, there's availability of grants, etc. I haven't dug into it very deeply. Unfortunately, the 2021 application process is now closed. So there's nothing we can do this year except use it as a possible idea generator and look forward. Now, in effect, as I read through briefly some of the provisions of that housing initiative, housing choice initiative, Westborough's done a lot of that. I mean, we've developed the commuter development. And, you know, I'm forgetting the name. The commuter village, which would be something they would be very interested in doing. We've already done that. We are, you know, been building over the past 5 to 10 years. We have been building quite a bit, albeit with high density housing, with you know, condos and apartments. So I don't know versus other towns that may be not as aggressive as Westborough or as available as Westborough for development, how much we would get out of this. But it was an interesting meeting, interesting presentation, and I'm going to continue to dig into that and see what we might be able to get out of it as a town. With that, I did call the presenter, not the presenter, but the MC, if you will, of the program afterwards, and just thanked him, introduced myself, etc. So that all went well. Questions on that?
Yes, I do. So what's interesting about the changes to the Housing Choice Initiative is that there is both carrot and stick.
Correct.
And, you know, so the carrots are relate to funding and the available grants to assist with housing. the biggest changes to the program was the really the location of higher density housing by right as opposed to special
Yes.
permit within proximity of train stations. And so it's a half-mile radius around an MBTA location, which can be a train or a bus terminal. And it's 15 units per acre by right. So the Westborough Village was built under special permit with our overlay district at 14 units per acre. So not quite there. And what's interesting about this is it was clearly written with communities where the train station is more towards the downtown area, right? Whereas our train station is away from the downtown. It's not within what would be considered walkable distance to retail and other services. And it's in a developed commercial industrial zone, right? As well as in that half-mile radius, we have existing higher density developments. So it'll be interesting to see, and I know, the housing group within the Master Plan Advisory Committee is looking at it, looking at the impact. The stick is that if you have that MBTA presence and you don't change the zoning to become the housing choice community, then you could lose all access to mass work and other grants that come through the state. So for an example of a mass works grant is the $1+ million that the state is spending to help put a signaled intersection on Flanders Road into our office park, right? In that part of town, which will ease traffic and make further development of that commercial space more viable. And so I know it might be good, Ed, to reach out to Jim Robbins and Mark Silverberg as well, because they're looking at the implications.
Yeah, let me get, yes, I will. I'm making a note to talk to Jim and Mark to just say where do you what's your vision, view, concerns, issues, give me a primer of where Westborough is within this model and vis-a-vis from an affordable housing sort of slant as well. So I'm making a note to myself here. So keep going, Alan.
No, that was it. That was my only comment, just making that connection.
Okay, good.
But there's just a lot, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty about it.
Yeah, there is. I mean, in some ways, Westborough's been doing pretty well, and but once again, we want to watch the stick part. I think we would take the carrot, but we also want to watch the stick. Rehousing choice legislation. I'm just making notes here. Okay. All right, we have town meeting coming up in just over a month. I accidentally closed my laptop. Alan's getting a kick out of me with dealing with everything here in a remote place. Anyhow, the membership, we're still looking for members. Alan, you had thought you might had somebody.
Yeah, so the gentleman who spoke to me about joining us has since accepted an appointment to the Advisory Finance Committee, and therefore has pulled his name from the running for the Housing Trust.
That poor individual. That poor misled individual. If only Hank and I had been able to talk to him. Okay, so who? I mean, you can mention the name now if they've already.
It's Safar Siddiqui.
Oh, okay,
yes. Siddiqui,
yes. Siddiqui, who ran for
Planning Board.
Planning Board.
Well, that was going to be my suggestion, was to reach out to folks who were interested in elected positions this past election, who weren't voted in, but who obviously expressed an interest in representing our town and so in our community. So I was wondering, and so Sadar was one of the people that I was thinking about, but if there's others who we could also reach out to, I think that's a good starting point.
Yeah. I'm just going through my head, but there wasn't too many contested races. It was planning board and select board and
Planning board, select board, library board of trustees.
But was the library, was that contested at all?
Yes.
Oh, there was. Okay.
Yeah, there was. Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy to take an action item to go check
Yeah,
names
if
and
you
reach out.
know, so you might have some good connections there. But once again, people, if you're familiar with folks and you know, and maybe as Metro West, I might touch base again with the moderator and, you know, say, is there somebody, and you want to do it low key, you don't want to broadcast it too much. I do think one of the things I did see was on, you know, the selectmen. I don't know if they have on their, you know, their agendas, the list of open positions, whether they've been posting this.
And it's we've now created slides for the open positions that Westborough TV is also has posted on their website and is rotating through on the 3 channels. Correct.
I've seen those. All right. What else we got here? Oh, I know, other business. One of the things I wanted to bring up, we originally on the working group started meetings at 8:30. I think we did this 9 for some reason, and then I kept the 9 for at least this meeting. What are people's desires as far as meeting time? Should we move them back to start at 8:30, go 8:30 to 10, as opposed to starting at 9?
9 works fine for me.
Right. I just didn't know because people, you know, Kate, I know sometimes you have to drive getting into work. I don't know.
Well, my issue is I have to transport children to school. And so I'm not able to sit back down at my desk until 10 or 9. So if my husband's around, which he's not right now, he's in Canada. So then I can have him drive people to school. But yeah, so 9 works for me, but I can definitely, if we move it to 8:30, if that works better for other people, I can do it from the car for a little bit until I get home.
Yeah,
8:30 is what people prefer to get it going earlier.
Yeah. Alan, do you have a preference?
I have no preference. 8:30 works. 9 works for me.
Yeah.
On Thursdays, I'm pretty flexible. Clearly it makes for a smoother meeting if we don't have members transitioning from, you know, participatory carpooling to dedicated meeting.
Okay.
And even though state law says, you know, no texting and driving, I'm pretty sure that includes video conferencing. So
yeah, we would prefer not to put either you and or others at risk. With that, Leah, any comments as far as
I'm just working from home and my daughter is schooling from home, so I'm good with any time.
Okay, and I'm flexible. So it sounds like, why don't we keep things at 9? I just wanted to touch base to make sure that was convenient for everybody. So we'll continue meeting at 9 to 10:30, and we've been pretty good. We're a little ahead of schedule here. Any other business that anybody would like to bring up? Concerns, questions, other issues? Anything on the warrant that you've seen that would affect us, Alan? The town meeting's May 15th, correct?
it is May 20th, I thought.
Or 20th?
Now you've questioned my knowledge in memory, so.
The only thing that might impact us is if you want to raise poultry in your backyard.
I know it's you
Yeah,
got to
so-
get your ducks in a row.
Unintended.
I have it as what did I put it in as?
No,
May.
I would say the only,
Yeah, May.
the only
I have it as Saturday, May 15th.
It's May 15th.
that is correct. Yep. So the only warrant article that would have direct impact on us at this point would be the funding of the consulting work with respect to sewer wastewater allocation.
Right.
And that we need that to pass and move forward as aggressively as possible. As Hank mentioned, hopefully, to keep the time frame. And my understanding, as Hank mentioned, the process is we've got to gather a lot of data, and then you go plead your case to Mass DEP.
Right.
And so, the sooner we can do that, obviously, the better it is.
Right. Yeah. No, it is something that in any new development that's coming in. I mean, it's the whole town's affected in a way. So okay. So we want to, I assume, be supportive of that. Obviously everybody's an individual voter. You vote your what you believe is right for the town. That's our first obligation. But then we should also keep in mind our needs as trustees, because we've been entrusted with this with our obligations. With that, any other points? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, you want to call the roll, Alan, please?
Sure. Mr. Roush,
Roush, yes.
Ms. Storm,
Storm, yes.
Mr. Bain,
Bain, yes.
Ms. McLean,
McLean, yes.
and Edinburgh, yes. Vote of 5-0. We are adjourned. And
Yep,
thank you
and
very
thank
much,
you,
Westborough
Westborough
TV.
TV.
Yes, thank you.
That was in stereo, Karen. So thank you. All right.